Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Maddie here, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be taking a look at some prospective Mew EX deck lists and kind of talking a little bit about the card and what archetypes might come from Mew EX, which is going to be releasing here with Mythical Island, the new expansion, on December 17th. So that's what we're going to do today in this video. I have just a few deck lists here that I put together, including Mew EX, as well as perhaps some of the other new cards that have been announced, at least, with Mythical Island. Now, the elephant in the room here, I suppose, is that we don't know what all of the other cards that are coming in Mythical Island are. So we still basically have to wait a little bit to see what exactly, if there is at least some other cards that are going to be releasing with this new expansion that we'll want to run in these deck lists. So this is sort of just to get a rough idea, at least, of what the deck lists using Mew EX might look like. So as you guys can see here on the screen, the first one that we're going to take a look at is sort of the obvious one, and that is sort of the bread and butter Mew EX with Mewtwo EX. This is going to be, I think, by far the most common, or I guess the most obvious way to play Mew EX, and that's going to be with the standard Mewtwo EX lineup. So the cool thing about Mew EX here, and I guess we'll just cover it real quickly, it has less HP than Mewtwo EX, but it also has a cheaper retreat cost. So 130 HP, it is a basic Pokemon, Psychic type, retreat cost of 1. It's got 2 attacks similar to Mewtwo. We have Psy Shot that does 20 damage for 1 Psychic Energy, which is actually pretty good if you really think about it. Being able to do 20 damage on your first turn going second with Mew in the active spot is actually pretty good. It's better than nothing, right? Whereas with Mewtwo EX, we can attack on that first turn. So very similar to Zapdos EX in that respect, but the second attack on Mew EX is what we're really focused on, which is genome hacking, and this is a very common Mew type ability here. For 3 colorless energy, we can choose one of our opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So this basically means that no matter what the energy cost is of the attack that we're copying on our opponent's Pokemon, as long as we have 3 energies of any type on Mew EX, we will be able to use that attack. So it's sort of like Ditto, the Ditto card that we already have from Genetic Apex, but it's a little bit better. Well, it's a lot better in the sense that we don't need that specific type of energy. We need the quantity of 3, but as long as we have 3 of any energies, we can use any attack as long as our opponent's Pokemon is in the active spot. So this is really good. This is going to open up this this traditional Mewtwo deck in sort of a few different ways. Mainly in the sense that Mew EX already has a pretty decent matchup against Pikachu, which is the other most common deck in the format. But where Mew EX struggles is against some of the sort of the longer mid-range decks, things like Charizard EX. Particularly, Charizard does have a pretty decent matchup against Mewtwo. They're both sort of late-game, high-payoff decks. However, Mewtwo EX cannot one-hit KO a Charizard. It has too much HP. Mewtwo hits for 150. Charizard has, I think, 180 HP. Whereas Charizard EX can one-hit KO a Mewtwo, right? So that's kind of where that matchup kind of comes down to it. The thing is with Mew EX is that as long as we get 3 energies on that Mew EX, we're able to one-hit KO our opponent's Charizard. This goes as well for something like a Blastoise if our opponent has 5 energies on their Blastoise. I'm not sure exactly how that particular interaction works, I guess. I know Blastoise, so for 3 energies, you do the attack, and if you have 2 extra energies attached to it, then it does 40 or 60 additional damage. I assume it kind of works the same way with Mew EX, whereas if we have 5 energies on Mew EX of any type, or maybe is it water? I'd have to take a look at Blastoise's attack cost, but if it says water energy, then yeah, we would need the 2 extra water energies on Mewtwo in addition to the 3 colorless energies to do that 160 damage. But basically speaking, Charizard is kind of the main reason, at least in this particular matchup, why we would be running Mew EX. We're still running the Gardevoir engine. It's actually still quite good in this particular matchup, just because Mew EX has an energy cost of 3, Mewtwo has an energy cost of 4. That means as long as we have 1 energy on our Mewtwo in a previous turn, or on our Mew rather, if we have an energy attached to it, we should be able to set Mew up in just 1 turn with an attachment in the Gardevoir acceleration with Psy Shadow, and go ahead and start off to the races. But yeah, this is kind of particularly the main reason to play Mew in this matchup. I'm sure there are other scenarios, and there's going to be other cards that this comes in handy in, but we're still running 1 Mewtwo as well, just because that, again, is going to be good in a lot of other decks, particularly against Pikachu. For that 4 energy cost, we're able to one-shot against decks that aren't able to one-shot us, right? We're running one of these small Mewtwo's, just because, again, kind of like an ancillary piece in the deck. It's a good option in a lot of different ways, but it's kind of just a single price Pokemon that we can kind of leave in the active spot. It's got quite a bit of HP, and it can kind of stay alive and tank hits for quite some time. Now, we are using, again, one of the other new cards that has been released in this expansion, and that is Leaf. And Leaf is pretty cool. It's basically a supporter card that acts as 2 X speeds, and this is really quite important for the overall flow of the deck. One of the big downsides of Mewtwo EX in this particular entire archetype is that all the Pokemon that you would typically play in Mewtwo EX have a retreat cost of 2, and this is a little bit more expensive than you want it to be, mainly just because you don't want to be discarding energies when you're retreating out or going into a different Pokemon. This can be alleviated in some degree with Gardevoir, since we can attach 2 energies to our active Pokemon every turn. But Leaf basically gives us another additional ability for us to retreat for free with both Mewtwo EX and Gardevoir EX and the small single prize Mewtwo. So very, very good card in Mewtwo. I think it's going to be good in a lot of matchups. I think Leaf in general is going to be a really good card, mainly because the main energy resource and the main resource in Pokemon TCG Pocket is energy, and that basically gives us the ability to retreat out and have some flexibility there without having to lose any of our energies, which again is really crucial when it comes down to winning Pokemon TCG Pocket games. So Leaf definitely really good in Mewtwo, so we're going to get included in this deck. I know Mew has a retreat cost of 1, but just in general, Mew is one of those cards that we don't want to keep in the active spot. We want to bring it up when we need to, and that's Leaf is going to help us with that. The other thing with Mewtwo is it doesn't have any sort of mission critical supporter cards, things like Misty or Brock or Surge or Erica's supporter cards that you otherwise would be sort of utilizing in the strategy. Mewtwo EX doesn't have sort of anything like that. We have just Research and a Sabrina, so we have a lot of room to play extra supporters in the deck with Leaf. So that is why we're running Leaf in this particular deck list. All right, now the next deck that we want to take a look at is something a little bit different. This is actually one of the archetypes that I'm most excited to pair with Mew EX, and that is with Exeggutor. So one of the things with Mew EX, other than being sort of an additional ancillary Pokemon to Mewtwo EX, Mew actually kind of fits a lot of the same scenarios that a Wigglytuff EX would fit in. Mainly just because, again, it's an EX Pokemon. It's a basic Pokemon, which is a little bit nicer than Wiggly having to evolve it, so it takes up less Pokemon in your deck. But they both have an attack, a pretty powerful attack of 3 colorless energies, which means we can fit Mew in basically any other deck. The only card, at least that we know of right now, to accelerate energies to Mewtwo is Gardevoir to accelerate those psychic energies. We can't use really anything else in the game, at least at the moment, to accelerate additional energies to Mew a little bit faster. So, because same with Wigglytuff, right? It's the same concept with Wigglytuff. Really, you want to put Wigglytuff in a deck that doesn't have other Pokemon that require you to invest too many energies in. That's why we see Wigglytuff in things like Weezing, and we see it with Exeggutor. So that's why I wanted to build this particular list, because Mew, I think, is going to pair really well with Exeggutor and kind of fill that kind of purpose that Wigglytuff fills in this particular archetype. The cool thing with Exeggutor is that it's actually a really good card. I think the main reason why people don't play Exeggutor is because it doesn't have a lot of great partners to pair up with it, and I think that Mew is definitely going to be able to fill that void. Again, there is Wigglytuff that is sort of this funny anti-meta deck. It's not a terrible list. It really isn't, the one with Exeggutor and Wigglytuff, but I think replacing Wigglytuff with Mew is going to make it that much better. Now, we could include the New Execute. I know that there was a New Execute card that was released or announced for this new expansion. It really just comes down to which one you prefer. There are scenarios where it's better. Again, there are going to be scenarios where being able to do that 20 damage on your first turn going second is in fact better. However, we do have Mew for that, and I have included cards like Kangaskhan. I have 1 copy of Kangaskhan in this list as well. There might be a better card that comes out in Mythical Island to kind of replace the purpose of Kangaskhan, but we'll wait to sort of see if that is indeed the case. So I just used sort of the standard Execute from Genetic Apex, but if there's if you think that the new one is better for any reason, then it certainly can be. One of the upsides of it is to get that additional energy on Execute. Could allow you to set up your Mew a little bit faster, or get some extra energies on the Exeggutor to perhaps retreat out. But yeah, we're running 1 Kangaskhan as well. It's just a great single prize attacker. It's a good option going first if you, again, don't draw into Mew or your Execute on your first turn. It's just another option to start getting damage off early on the board. And the other thing that you'll notice is that we're actually running one of the new Tauros cards. And Tauros is really, really good. It fills a very similar purpose in this deck that Mew does, except for different scenarios. So Mew, again, you're going to be able to copy your opponent's active Pokemon to do big damage for 3 energies, right? But in decks like let's just say decks like you're going against Pikachu, where Mew is not necessarily going to be that much more useful because you're just copying a 90 damage attack, except against Pikachu, you don't have any electric Pokemon on your bench, so you're not doing really any damage with that attack. Mew's not going to be really useful, and Pikachu is certainly going to be one of the most popular decks in the format, and that's why I think Tauros is going to be really, really good, so we can kind of keep our Exeggutor in the active spot, tank a bunch of hits, survive for a long time because we are running Ericas, we are running Potion, and then we can invest those extra energies into Tauros, go into our Tauros, and then one-hit KO a Pikachu for 120 damage. It's really, really strong. This Tauros card is going to be absolutely clutch. It's going to be very good against Pikachu. The new Marshadow card, also really good against Pikachu, but we'll take a look at that in a later video. So yeah, this is going to be, I think, one of my favorite ways to play Mew once it releases here on the 17th. So I'm really excited about this particular deck list, but yeah, so let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Again, we're kind of doing a new version of that Exeggutor Wigglytuff deck, except this time we're utilizing Mew EX as well as the new Tauros. But yeah, let's take a look at the next list. All right, now the third deck list that we're going to take a look at featuring Mew EX is going to be with Weezing. Now, this is a very common deck. A lot of people know Weezing. It's very popular right now. In fact, again, one of the most popular ways to play Weezing is to pair it with Wigglytuff. And instead of Wigglytuff, we're going to be pairing it with Mew EX. Again, very similar to things that we've seen before. And in this deck list, just like the Exeggutor list, Mew is going to function very similarly to how Wigglytuff functions in these particular matchups. So, again, I like this deck list a lot, mainly just because of its matchup against the mirror matchup, or not the mirror per se, but the other Mew decks that we're going to see, which most commonly we're going to be seeing a lot more Mewtwo EX. It's probably going to be the most powerful deck in the game once Mew EX in Mythical Island releases, so this is going to be kind of, again, a counter meta deck where we're going to be able to play Weezing and Arbok in a way that we do already right now to beat and counter Mewtwo EX decks, except now we can utilize Mew EX in this list to do much more effective attacking damage and have a much better matchup against deck lists that aren't Mewtwo EX. And that's sort of where Mew kind of fits in here. So you got to think about it like this, right? Weezing and Arbok is a very strong list against any Psychic type deck. Psychic is going to be very, very popular, like I said, and it fits perfectly into this, where we can just sort of not invest a ton of energies into Weezing because we don't typically need to. It's sort of a stall strategy. We can kind of whittle down our opponents that way with Weezing, and then we have all of that extra energy and extra time to accelerate those energies to Mew EX, where we can go ahead, bring it up into the active spot by scooping up our Weezing with Koga, and then go ahead and just take big KOs on things like Charizard and other Mewtwo. So gonna be really, really good, again, in other matchups where you're going up against Mew EX. So it's kind of a counter meta deck list here. It's very, very interesting. I think that we're able to, well, here's the thing. We're also able to run Arbok in this list. So Weezing and Arbok is its own archetype. You don't typically see Weezing with Arbok and Wigglytuff, but Wigglytuff requires you to run 2 Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff, right? So that's like 4 cards typically that you would be sort of putting in this particular deck list. Mew is a basic Pokemon, so we don't have to, you know, leave that much extra space in the deck for 4 copies because we can only run 2. So that allows us to basically fit in Arbok, which is, again, a very, very strong card in a lot of matchups, particularly 60 damage is a nice 2-hit KO number. It's good against Pikachu, it's good against a lot of decks, and it only requires sort of 2 energies to get going. It's a single prize attacker as well, which is really, really strong. But yeah, basically because we can only really run 2 copies of Mew EX, we have a lot of extra room in the deck when we're not running Wigglytuff, and that is why we're going to also run Arbok in the list. You can, again, kind of change this list around a little bit. You could kind of cut the Arboks, maybe run some Tauros for the Pikachu matchup or other matchups as well. Tauros is a really good card, and it fits really well in a lot of matchups where you would be running things like Mew EX. So really exciting to see kind of all the different potentials in which, you know, we're going to be able to utilize Mew EX. I'm really, really excited about it, but nothing else too new about this list. We're not going to be running Leaf. We're not going to be running the other supporter card here that reduces damage. It's not necessarily needed. We're running 2 copies of Red Card. You can't see it here, but running 2 copies of Red Card because, again, a little bit more of a sort of a stally kind of disruptive deck here that we're going to be kind of going for. We do have 1 copy of Giovanni and 1 copy of Sabrina, just again because they're pretty good cards. Now, again, like I said earlier in the video, we don't know what else is going to be coming in Mythical Island. I'm sure that all of the deck lists that we took a look at today will change to some degree based off of the other new cards that are going to be released in Mythical Island in the new booster pack that we don't know what they are yet. So keep that in mind. These deck lists are not final. They're kind of just, again, to give us a good idea of maybe what is going to be a good way to play Mewtwo EX. So yeah, guys, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun making this, and I'm really excited for when Mythical Island comes out. We've made quite a few Pokemon TCG Pocket videos here on the channel over the last month or so, but as Mythical Island comes out, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of other videos showcasing a ton of the new decks, while also basically showcasing the new cards that as they come out as time goes on, right? Into January, when the second full new expansion comes out, we're going to be making videos. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to stay tuned for that. If you're enjoying the content, I really do appreciate it. And I would love to hear your guys' opinions. Comment below how you're planning to use Mewtwo EX. What are your ideas? What are we going to use this card for, and what kind of decks we're going to be building? I really do appreciate the feedback, and I appreciate all of the engagement and content that I'm able to bring to you guys here in the upcoming weeks. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll see you guys next time, and yeah, have a good one.